So coming up this weekend is going to be PFL 6 of the 2024 regular season, which is going to feature the featherweights and the welterweights, and what I think is going to be a pretty good card because they're two pretty fun divisions, especially the welterweight division, in my opinion, this year on the PFL season is stacked. They've got some undefeated up-and-coming prospects, they've got a former champion as well from Bellator, and then of course the featherweights are pretty fun as well with some pretty good up-and-coming names and potential superstar names, such as Brennan, who did end up winning the title in 2022. Now, I haven't been home to record the video, which is why I am uploading this so late. I've been away visiting family, as my family do not live in the same city that I do, which is why I was away visiting them. And I did actually have an article up and written on the We Want Picks website about PFL last Friday. I wrote that and uploaded that. And if you did want to check it out, or you also wanted to check out a bunch of other content that is on that We Want Picks page, you can sign up for $10 per month. But if you wanted to do that, definitely use my code ARTEM, as that code actually directly supports me and my channel. But also, if you're just curious to see what is behind that paywall and what is on that website, there is a 3-day free trial which you can cancel during that 3-day free trial period if you do sign up using that code ARTEM as well. So definitely check that out. There's a lot of stuff there, and now was a really good time to sign up and use that 3-day free trial because it's the end of the week coming up into UFC 303, and obviously by now Angelo and Jacob have already placed a lot of bets on that card. So if you wanted to check those out, definitely sign up for that 3-day free trial and have a look. You can cancel during that period. And with all of that being said, let's now get into my predictions for the PFL card. So kicking off the card on the Tapology order is going to be Tyler Diamond fighting against Brett Johns at 145 pounds, and for the second time in a row, Tyler Diamond is going to be an underdog, as he did just recently fight against Otto Rodriguez. He was the underdog in that fight, and I did successfully pick him on that one there, and to be fair, it probably was one of my only really good picks on that card, as unfortunately the last time the featherweights and the welterweights did fight, I didn't really have the best picking card as what I typically do have for PFL, so I'm really hoping to turn it around, and I'm hoping that Tyler Diamond can do it again for me as an underdog against Brett Johns, as Brett Johns is minus 160 and Tyler Diamond is plus 120. Now, Brett Johns, he was in the UFC, of course, he did fight at 135 pounds, but then he did sign to Bellator and fought a couple of times at 135 pounds, but very much recently, I believe it was in this fight here against Jordan Winsky, he made his debut at 145 pounds. And I've never really liked the move, I just never have liked the move of Brett Johns to 145 pounds, and maybe that is just preventing me from picking him against Tyler Diamond here. Brett Johns is also a guy that's going to look to wrestle. You could argue that he's going to be the better striker in this matchup, as Tyler Diamond is also a wrestler, but I would say he probably relies on that wrestling a lot more, and he did find success with it against Otto Rodriguez, who was a much smaller opponent, but also even against these guys in Loughnane and Movlid Kabuliev, he has managed to find some success using that wrestling, and because of that, I do actually think that he should be able to outmuscle Brett Johns here and take him down. I don't know what it is, I just really think that Brett Johns would be a lot better off staying at 135 pounds, but understandably, of course, PFL does not have a bantamweight division, but I am going to side with Tyler Diamond to win using the wrestling in this one here as a slight underdog. And now we move up to Don Madge fighting against Neiman Gracie at 170 pounds. And Don Madge is a guy that was expected to find a lot of success in his career in the PFL. He was signed after, I think he had a lot of visa issues with the UFC, and then he was signed, and then it was confirmed that he was going to be a part of the season. A lot of people were really, really excited to see that, but then he did end up getting knocked out by Rayush Manfio in that fight. But he did make a pretty good comeback recently against Brennan Ward, but now he's going to be fighting against Neiman Gracie, who, of course, as you would predict, is a grappler, and he is a very good grappler. But I just don't see him being able to keep up with the striking of Don Madge in this fight. Now, of course, once again, Don Madge is a former UFC fighter, found a decent amount of success, but to my knowledge, again, I think he was released just by having a lot of visa problems, and I think also he was a former lightweight, but he's moved up now for the PFL season. I think Madge is the better striker, and although Gracie is definitely going to be the better grappler in the fight, I think that Madge should be good enough to avoid those situations, and if he does get put in a risky situation, I think he should be able to escape it as well. So I am going to be siding with Don Madge to knock out Neiman Gracie. We've seen Neiman Gracie knocked out before. He didn't get knocked out by Goiti in their last fight, but he was knocked out a couple of years ago by Goiti in a fight which he just kind of left himself open, and Goiti got that viral knockout KO when he kind of played with Gracie and then just slipped him, which is kind of cool. Before that whole fight, really, he was getting pieced up. I can see Don Madge probably doing something similar, and it seems like the majority of the fan base are expecting that to happen as well. Kamaka III is looking to make it 2 in a row in the PFL when he does take on Pedro Carvalho, who was just knocked out 2 months ago by Brennan Loughnane, and now he's back already. Now, I did actually say in that fight that I wasn't super confident in Brennan Loughnane, and that is just because I do think Pedro Carvalho is better than his record suggests. I have picked him as a massive underdog in the past, and it has worked out very well for me, but recently, of course, he now is on a little bit of a losing streak, and he has been KO'd a couple of times recently. One thing that I learned last week, because a lot of the picks that I got wrong last week were actually fighters that took a lot of damage. You know, Clay Collard lost last week in what was a pretty annoying performance to watch, I'll be honest with you. But if you consider that fight there, he did take a lot of damage against Patricky Pitbull a couple of months prior to that fight, and then Patricky Pitbull lost a split decision to Bruno Miranda, and once again, a couple of months prior, he had that absolute war with Clay Collard. So I feel like something that I can learn and kind of apply it to PFL in the future is actually more so heavily consider the amount of damage that fighters took in their previous matchups, because with the PFL and the way that their system works, fighters return 2 months apart from each other, and it doesn't matter if they got slipped, like Pedro Carvalho. I remember the first time they did it, I think it was Victor Pesta, got knocked out like 3 times in 8 months or something, brutally as well. I think it was Victor Pesta, but I could be wrong. I know he got knocked out by Amari Akhmedov anyway in like 2021, I think, but Pedro Carvalho got slipped by Brennan Loughnane 2 months ago, and now he's fighting Kamaka III. Now, Kamaka III, I will admit, probably is a guy that isn't the most dangerous fighter in the world. He's not really a guy that you can rely on to go out there and get a lot of knockouts. In fact, he's only got 2 finishes in his career, and he was kind of on the receiving end of a couple of bad decisions in the UFC when he was released. You definitely could make a very fair argument that he beat TJ Brown. You can make a fair argument that he should have been given the decision against Danny Chavez, but nonetheless, he was released, and and Bellator at the time picked him up, and he's kind of gone on from there. And that win against Adley Edwards, I do think, is a pretty decent win. Now, he fights Pedro Carvalho, and normally I would pick Kamaka III to win a decision, but since Carvalho got knocked out 2 months ago, I think he's going to find another KO. And it's also worth noting that Carvalho's a boxer, so he's going to want to stand with Kamaka III, who could wrestle, of course, but I do think that Kamaka III is also going to look to kickbox in this matchup here, so I just think stylistically, it's matching up to be a striking affair. One of these guys got knocked out 2 months ago. That was Carvalho. I normally would not pick Kamaka to win by KO. He's only got 1 knockout in his entire career. But this is prime opportunity for Kamaka to get a finish, and I do think he is going to go out there and get it over a guy that was literally knocked out 2 months ago. Now we move on to Goiti Yamauchi fighting against Andrey Koreshkov. I really like Goiti Yamauchi. He is my favorite Bellator fighter of all time. I was campaigning for the UFC to sign him for a very, very long time, but now that he's with the PFL, I probably don't think he's going to go anywhere, to be honest with you. And now he fights Koreshkov, and I'm in a little bit of a tough position in this matchup because I picked Koreshkov to defeat Magomed Umalatov. I would happily put my hand up and say that I looked to do that. And to be fair, I didn't think Umalatov's wrestling was that good. Now, I've seen Koreshkov defend takedowns before. He's been a former Bellator champion at 155 pounds, a long time ago now, to be fair. But he wasn't a good run, and I wasn't that impressed with Umalatov's wrestling prior to that matchup. And I know that his name ends with "ov," but he was a striker, and now all of a sudden, he's become a full-on wrestler, and it started with that Naib Lopez fight, of all fights as well, because he's knocked out decent strikers in the past. But I did pick Koreshkov to beat Umalatov, and I had my reasons to do that. And now he's fighting Goiti Yamauchi, which isn't really so much of a different matchup in my opinion, to be honest with you, because Goiti Yamauchi, he can wrestle, he can grapple, but he's also a really good striker. So I feel like stylistically the matchup is somewhat different, except Goiti Yamauchi definitely doesn't have the wrestling that Umalatov has, but what he does present, in my opinion, is a lot more danger when the fight actually becomes a pure grappling affair with his jiu-jitsu, because Goiti, I think he's got 21 submissions in the 29 wins that he's got, 21 subs, 18 in the first round. Absolutely ridiculous stuff from my boy Goiti. But I'm going to kind of double down on my Koreshkov belief, and I do think he is going to beat Goiti in this fight because I think he is the better striker in the fight, and I know Goiti is a good striker, but I do think Koreshkov's just better. Koreshkov's a very dynamic kickboxer, and he does make a lot of mistakes on the feet, I will admit. And by mistakes, I don't really mean just mistakes on the feet by leaving himself wide open. I mean like mistakes as in he throws a lot of kicks against opponents that he shouldn't be kicking against, because you can catch a kick and get a takedown based on that. And I do worry he's going to do that against Yamauchi, but I think as long as the fight is on the feet, it's going to be in Koreshkov's realm. And I think he should be able to hurt Yamauchi on the feet as well. It's going to break my heart if it does happen. Yamauchi's path to victory is, of course, to get the fight down to the ground. But I do believe that Koreshkov's takedown defense is better than what was showcased against Umalatov, who must have just been an incredible wrestler the whole time, to be honest. I think that Koreshkov is going to beat Yamauchi here. And it looks like the majority are picking Koreshkov to win as well. And it is worth noting he is an underdog in this matchup. And now we move on to Timur Khizriev fighting against Enrique de Barzola. I think we see Khizriev get another win, just the way that Khizriev gets his wins. He's not really the most exciting guy, but at the moment, I think that you probably could make a fair estimate that he is going to win the whole tournament. Now, of course, he's going to probably have to get past Brennan Loughnane to do it, but I think that Khizriev's wrestling is very good. We've seen him out-wrestle decent wrestlers in the past, like with his win against Justin Gonzales, and he did just go out there and out-wrestle Brett Johns, who is a former bantamweight. What is Enrique Barzola? A former bantamweight. So I think we see Khizriev go out there, be the bigger man in the matchup. I think he out-wrestles Barzola and wins a decision in what a somewhat similar matchup to, not really, to be fair, because Borix is not a wrestler, but yes, he is. No, he's not. No, he's not. Anyway, he can wrestle. Borix can wrestle, but he's not a pure wrestler. Enrique Barzola is interesting to me because he is a talented grappler, but for the most part, he seems to like to strike. And he's got a very weird striking style where he has his hands pretty low and his chin is way up in the air. Now, Khizriev is not going to be that guy that's going to be able to knock him out and expose that weakness, but I think he is going to be able to just use the size advantage that he's going to have. And the way that Khizriev likes to win fights is the way that he beat Daniel Weichel. It's the way that he beat Richie Smellin. It's the way that he beat... You see where I'm going? He likes to dominate in top control. I think he's going to be able to do that against Enrique Barzola. I'm not expecting a finish by any means, but I think that we probably will be able to see Khizriev go on into the semi-finals in this one. Now, this is definitely going to be the most highly contested fight from fans alike. I think it's Murad Ramazanov fighting against Shamil Musaev, 12-0 versus 17-0-1. And I think that the odds are still dead even, but no, money has come in on Ramazanov, and now Ramazanov is minus 140, so a bit of a slight favourite for Ramazanov coming into this fight. Now, I picked Logan Storley to beat Shamil Musaev, and what happened? Musaev just kind of beat the piss out of him, to be honest with you. I don't know if that language is allowed on the We Want Picks channel. I'm sure it is. Shamil Musaev. He didn't look great to start against Storley, and this is kind of where it gets a little bit interesting for me, because I picked Storley in that fight, and I don't think Musaev fought like he had on tape in the past, honestly, at all, in that matchup against Logan Storley, because in the past, if you actually do watch his fights here, I think it was at the fight against Uros Juricic where he started an absolute brawl, because at the end, no, I think it was this one here where it was a draw. Anyway, I've got way off track. If you watch Musaev's previous fights, this guy is absolutely wild. He is throwing strikes every few seconds. He's throwing kicks over and over and over again. He's got, his hands are okay, but he's not very good at boxing. He's really good at kicking, though. And he's just all over the place. He's just absolutely gunning for it. Pedal to the middle, 125% of the time. Not wasting time, not doing anything. He's just going for it. And then he goes out there, and he goes out there against Logan Storley. And he doesn't really do anything to start, like aside from defend takedowns. And he's got a very patient game plan, a very patient sort of style that he brought into that matchup. And it worked so well for him because he picked his spots where he got aggressive, He, at the very end of the first round, he kind of blitzed Logan Storley in a way that he used to, except 100% of the time. He only chose that blitz at the end of the first rounds. And he hurt Storley at the end of round number 1. And then in round number 2, he just finished off the job because Storley was already a little bit rocked, was already a little bit tired. He had shot a lot of takedowns, which Musaev defended, I think all but one of them, which was very impressive to have that good of takedown defense against Storley because I didn't expect it. And the reason why was because Shamil Musaev, he's throwing kicks all the time on the regional scene. And I just thought that Storley was going to catch those kicks and take him down. Now, he's fighting against Murad Ramazanov. I don't think Murad Ramazanov's a good striker. I'm going to put that out there. I've watched him. He needs to wrestle and he needs to get it done. And the thing is, you can trust him to do it. And the reason why I am going to side with Murad Ramazanov is I actually think that he should be able to control Shamil Musaev. Because although Shamil Musaev actually did it to himself by actually fighting a much smarter game plan, he still is an absolute wild man in the cage. And I do think it is going to just take someone that's able to control the pace to beat him, and whether that is someone that can really slow down the pace on the feet, and this is a very outward example, but you're gonna have to kind of trust me, like Leon Edwards really slows down the pace on the feet, or someone that can wrestle, and I thought that was going to be Logan Storley. I'm going to double down. I'm going to pick Murad Ramazanov because I think he can get it done. Now, it's kind of interesting because Storley's a very talented wrestler. And Musaev was able to defend those takedowns and even actually ended up knocking him out because Storley ducked into an uppercut in round number 2. Murad Ramazanov is much more of like a clinch sort of guy, and then he works the takedowns and dominates on the top. On the feet, he is so hittable. He doesn't have like any defense really. Like, he is just not a good striker. I don't really know how to describe the striking. I guess like maybe Khabib sort of style where it's effective, but it's not really like super technical and it's not really amazing. Like, I don't know. I think on the feet, Shamil Musaev's got a big advantage because I think he is a talented striker, but I think Ramazanov's going to be the guy to get the takedowns against him, so I'm actually going to go with Ramazanov to win a decision here. Looks like the majority are siding with Musaev on Tapology. Looks like the public and the sharps who are putting money on the fight have actually kind of moved the odds on the Ramazanov side, but I don't know. I feel like this is just a fight to avoid, but if you can get Shamil Musaev on plus money again, especially if you cashed on him as like a plus 200 underdog against Storley, maybe you could double down on him, but I'm actually going to go double down on the fade of Musaev. Hopefully that doesn't bite me again. Now Lorenz Larkin's fighting Alan Dominguez. I think this is a short notice replacement fight because I think Dominguez was meant to fight somebody else. I could be wrong. I really thought that this was a short notice replacement matchup or some sort of short notice fight. Okay, I don't live near that area, so that did not dox me. Thank you. Now, Lorenz Larkin fighting Dominguez. Alan Dominguez is a striker for the most part, except I was actually very surprised with the amount of times he wrestled against Nayib Lopez. And this one is definitely why he got signed to the PFL. I have very, very little doubt about that, because the PFL once believed in Lopez. Lopez was 15-0, was coming off a win over Ivan Valenzuela, who was actually on the Contender Series at 185 pounds, and he was 15-0, and he was 30 years old, apparently. He still claims to be 31. Nayib Lopez isn't 31 years old, man. There's no way. And the record isn't really that dodgy. Now, I guess you could see, he's beaten a lot of guys to like 8-5, 8-6. It's not like crazy padded. He did have that win over Ivan Valenzuela, which was a good win, but Dominguez went out there and beat him by decision, mostly by just hurting him on the feet and pulling and getting wrestling going, which really surprised me because I did not think that Dominguez was a grappler whatsoever. And he really tried to attempt a lot of submissions in that matchup. But one thing I noticed, specifically in that fight really, is that Alan Dominguez is not very good at defending strikes. I mean, there was a point in the first round when Nayib Lopez landed 4 crosses on him. And at the time, like, Dominguez just kind of had his neck stuck out and just kind of ate them and got rocked a little bit. And I was thinking, man, like, if you're going to get hit that easily by Nayib Lopez, who isn't even a striker, now you're fighting Lorenz Larkin, who is a striker. And I know that Lorenz Larkin is 37, nearly 38 years old now. I know he's had 33 pro fights, so he's had a lot of wear and tear. He's still a very dynamic, talented striker, a very dangerous guy as well. A massive KO over Magomed Berkhamov, and he had a massive KO as well over Kyle Stewart. I believe it was the Berkhamov one that was the spinning elbow KO, which was his more recent win. But he's got big power on the feet, lost that fight to Koreshkov, which was a bit of a war. It was a fun fight, close fight, could have really gone either way. I did kind of think that Koreshkov edged it out, but I think Larkin's too good on the feet to lose to Dominguez. And I know Dominguez can wrestle. I think Larkin's fought better wrestlers and defended takedowns against better wrestlers, to put it simply. So it's kind of where I'm going there. Also, there's no way Neiman Lopez is 6'3", which is what he's listed as well. Just absolutely no way. Larkin's gonna... I think I'm gonna pick Larkin by KO. I mean, I've seen Dominguez get hit clean by worse strikers than Larkin. Larkin's knocked out, in my opinion, better fighters recently. So I am going to go with Lorenz Larkin to win that one. Now we have Gabriel Alves Braga fighting against Bubba Jenkins. I do like Gabriel Alves Braga to win this matchup here against Bubba Jenkins, and does hurt me to say, because I have been a long time Bubba Jenkins supporter, but we just saw him lose to Kamaka III, and Gabriel Alves Braga, in my opinion, is a better striker than Kamaka III. Now, where I could really see myself going wrong here is in the wrestling, because Bubba Jenkins is a very talented wrestler, and if you look at him, he's a big guy, man. He's a massive guy for 145 pounds. I mean, the photo doesn't really do that much justice, to be fair, but he's a really big guy for 145 pounds, massive shoulders, massive arms, wrestling background. That's what he wants to do, and he's fighting a pure Muay Thai striker in Gabriel Alves Braga. And because Gabriel Alves Braga is a pure Muay Thai striker, I did actually pick Justin Gonzales to beat him. And in that fight, Alves Braga was able to defend a lot of Gonzales' takedown attempts. Now, to be fair, they were not very well set up. Gonzales was just kind of getting pieced apart on the feet and was just kind of shooting and diving at legs. And Bubba Jenkins, I think, probably will have better setup. I was still impressed by that takedown defense that Braga did show. And of course, that was actually the only time we've actually seen him taken down, because Chris Wade, well, had to defend takedowns because Chris Wade did it, and Braga didn't really look that great in the wrestling a few months ago, and before that he was only fighting guys that were wanting to strike with him. So now, aside from the Gonzales fight, this is actually going to be the second time he's actually had to fight someone that is going to be shooting for takedowns on him over and over and over again. So maybe we could see Bubba Jenkins go out there and overwhelm him like he was able to do to Chris Wade only a year ago, but we've seen him slow down a little bit. He got knocked out by Jesus Pinedo. He got beaten by Kamaka III. And on the feet, Braga is the better striker. And usually I would like to go with the wrestler. Usually I would pick Bubba Jenkins. Man, I'm going to get proven so wrong. I think that Jenkins probably really could go out there and out-wrestle him. And it's a very low confidence pick. And minus 125 tells you that the odds makers aren't confident either. But I am going to pick Gabriel Alves Braga, as I do think he is the better striker in this matchup by far. He just really needs to defend the takedowns, and although there still isn't that much evidence there, this would be a very, very good stepping stone to telling me that Alves Braga has elite defensive wrestling and good takedown defense. I'm going to go with Braga. I am picking him to win this matchup against Bubba Jenkins. And now Magomed Umalatov is fighting against Brennan Ward, and if you want my fully honest opinion on this matchup, I think that this is actually a good opportunity for Umalatov to get a finish. And the reason why I think the PFL wants him to get a finish is so he can definitely progress into the semi-finals. Because if he wins a decision, he's only going to end up with 6 points in total, because you only get 3 points, I think, for a decision. But you can get 6 points for a first round KO, 5 points for a second round, or first round finish, second round finish is 5 points, etc. And I think he's going to go out there and finish Brennan Ward in this matchup. Now, we've seen Brennan Ward come back and have a massive comeback story. The first return was against Brandon Bell. And then he fought a couple of other guys. Cassius K. I picked Cassius Kane like an absolute idiot in that fight. Oh, just exposing my old poor takes, to be fair. And then he beat Sabah Hamasi, which was a great win at the time. Got a main event slot against Logan Storley for Bellator. And then, of course, has been finished twice now in 10 months. But in this fight against Logan Storley, he got TKO'd due to ground and pounds by full mount, pretty much. And I think Umalatov could find that position. But more importantly, I still think that Umalatov is a very good striker. This guy was a striker until he started wrestling all the time against Neiman Lopez. You know, he knocked out Delano Taylor, a good striker. He knocked out Joe Hussein Al-Salawi, Very chinny, I know, but at the time, we didn't know he was that chinny, and he still slept him anyway. And he beat Leandro Silva, but that was 3 years ago now. Umalatov's a very good striker, and I think he's going to be the better striker in the fight, and also the better wrestler. I think that we're going to find some sort of KO at some point, whether it's on the feet or with the ground and pound by using that wrestling. So I'm going to go with Umalatov in this fight here. As I said, looks like everyone agrees. I think it is an opportunity for him to get big points and guarantee his place in the playoffs. And I also think that the same is kind of going for the Logan Storley fight, but once again, Logan Storley, I don't know if odds are out for this one. They are. He's minus 280, which is pretty close, considering Storley, he's got that win over MVP where he become the champion. I believe this was for the title, not an interim bout, and then he lost to Amosov. I think it must have been for an interim, but anyway. Then he beat Brennan Ward. We've got a former Bellator champion here as a minus 250 favorite against Luca Poclit, who is just a Bellator prospect. He was signed, he beat Roman Feraldo, which is a really good win, in my opinion. A very dangerous fighter as Feraldo. And he was signed kind of from Bellator after just beating some dudes, not that regularly. He's a good judo player, that's what he is. He's a judoka with very good grappling, 9 wins by submission, most of them in the first round. And Logan Storley's going to want to wrestle him, and I think he should be able to find the takedowns without too much problems. If Logan Storley wants to guarantee his place into the playoffs to win that $1 million, he needs to find a first-round finish. Now, in his original opponent, I thought they actually had a better chance of doing that because it was going to be against Laureano Staropoli, who was coming off a one-sided beatdown by Murad Ramazanov. Logan Storley, I think now actually has a more difficult opponent just because stylistically, Poclit is going to present danger on the ground that Staropoli definitely would not have had. But I think that Storley should be able to still take him down. Do I think Storley can guarantee a first round finish and guarantee his way into the playoffs? Not really, because Storley's not a guy you can trust really getting finishes like that. But I do think he wins against Poclit. Minus 250, you are going to get decent value on him as he is a former Bellator champion. But as I did say earlier, I am now really going to start to take in note how much damage fighters took recently, because with the PFL format and the way that it is, you fight once, and then you have to fight again for the second time in the second round, or the second round in the first round, the second round in the playoffs. I don't even know what they call it, to be honest with you. The second round in the regular season. Anyway, the point is he was knocked out a couple of months ago. And he wasn't just knocked out, dude. He was slumped over. Shamil Musaev hit him with a brutal uppercut as he was kind of standing up and slumped him. He was out cold on the canvas, man, 2 months ago. 2 months ago, he was out cold on the canvas. So if Luca Poclit just manages to get a knockout out of nowhere, or if Logan Storley doesn't look as good as he normally would, it's because he was just knocked out. Like, knocked out. He was out cold 2 months ago. So yeah, I wouldn't go too crazy on Logan Storley, to be honest, even though I did just say it's good value on him. That's why, because he was just knocked out. Only 4 votes on this one here, but Logan Storley's the pick. I think he should be able to find a finish. I can't tell you if he's going to get a first round finish, though, to be honest. And now Loughnane is going to be fighting against Justin Gonzales. Loughnane he's made improvements. He's made improvements. I'll put my hand up and definitely say that, because I wasn't crazy confident in him going in there against Pedro Carvalho. I know that's crazy to say, but I just wasn't, because I have not really been that sold on Loughnane. He won the title in 2022. Was it the win over Chris Wade that did it? I actually need to double check. He won the title in 2022. Of course, let me just make sure I'm not talking absolute nonsense. It was against Bubba Jenkins that he won it in the 4th round. And then he come back in 2023, and I didn't think he looked very good against Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes went on a legendary losing streak at the end of his career. And the best round I feel like he ever had in that legendary losing streak, where his career just went off a cliff, probably was this round against Brennan Loughnane in round number 1. He actually looked very good, and he made Loughnane look very bad, considering Loughnane was the former champion and he had that massive beef with old mate's new trainer, the guy from Peru that just won recently. The guy from Peru, what is even his name, man? Charles Rosa. He had a massive beef with Charles Rosa because Charles Rosa was saying he could beat Loughnane, and Loughnane has won the $1 million, and that was his big comeback fight, was against Marlon Moraes. And Yeah, the guy that Charles Rosa is training, by the way, is the bantamweight, whose name has escaped. Daniel Marcos. Charles Rosa is Daniel Marcos' head coach. And Daniel Marcos is making rapid improvements under Charles Rosa. So Charles Rosa, in my opinion, just kind of based off that one fighter, might be a much better coach than fighter. But I've yapped for too long on the main event. The pick is Loughnane. The pick's Loughnane. The point that I was trying to get to was that he wasn't looking that good in 2023, and he did get slept by Jesus Pinedo, and what was somewhat unlucky because Pinedo actually threw a kick and then he caught the knee, but he still got knocked out in that fight, and now he's come back, and I thought he actually looked really good against Carvalho, a lot better than what he looked against Marlon Rice, and maybe he just kind of lost a little bit of hunger because he just got $1 million, you know what I mean? You fight your whole life to make a massive paycheck, and so you can, you know, kind of set yourself up for life, and then you've already got it. So what are you fighting for? I don't know. But now it seems like Loughnane is really hungry again. I think we probably will see Loughnane make it all the way to the finals again. And I do think he's going to knock out Justin Gonzales, who is a wrestler who is going to shoot for takedowns over and over and over and over again. But here's the thing about Justin Gonzales. He was knocked out 2 months ago. It wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't crazy knockout. It was more like a TKO against the cage, but it was a good stoppage. It really was a good stoppage. But he was still, you know, definitely probably did lose consciousness in that fight. Now, he wasn't slumped over like Logan Storley. He was still KO'd. And although stylistically this isn't actually a bad matchup for Gonzales, as Loughnane is a striker, Gonzales can shoot for takedowns over and over and over again. I think we're just going to see Loughnane knock him out in the first round, guarantee himself probably that #1 seed at featherweight. So give me Loughnane in this one here. I don't know if I can pick him against Khizriev right now to win the whole thing, but I think he's definitely in the top 2 for 145 pounds in my eyes. And to win the whole thing at 170, I think it's up to Umalatov and probably just the winner of this fight, I'll be honest. Just the winner of that fight. So very interested to see. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this card. I do apologize if I did kind of go off track a little bit. That is what happens when I'm tired, and I did just finish driving about for 7 hours or so. So I'm a little bit tired, but let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Appreciate everyone for watching. Thank you.